Hi, welcome to the kitchen. I'm Carrie, and this is the Nourished Recovery. This is a space where we nourish our body with healthy food, strengthen our soul scripture, and walk the path of recovery with God's grace. If you watched the previous episode on fear, you might have spent some time reflecting on where fear shows up in your life. Today, we're going one step further because fear isn't the destination, it's a signal. The question now is, what do you do when fear shows up? Today, we'll be talking about control, not leadership or responsibility or the planning ahead type of control, but we're talking about that quiet place inside of us that believes if we can just manage or prepare well enough, then maybe we'll feel settled. The truth is, many of us don't even realize we're trying to control our lives or the lives of others because we've renamed it. We call it being responsible or staying ahead, or some of us even call it helping. But underneath it all is often trying to control the outcome. Okay, so we're going to make Mexican stuffed sweet potatoes. So first things first, we have our sweet potatoes. And we're gonna bring over our cooking sheet. And what we'll do is put a little bit of olive oil on these. And I'll also do some salt and pepper on the skin. Even though we're not going to keep that skin today, we're not going to eat it, I should say. We are going to keep the skin. So we'll put some salt and pepper on here. And these will go in the oven at 400 degrees for about 40 minutes. Okay, so the sweet potatoes are in the oven. And I want us to remember something before we dig a little deeper into control. Some things simply can't be rushed. Sweet potatoes is one of those things. You can't hurry the process. They're done when they're done. Sure, you can pop them in the microwave, but they'll turn out dry and bland. You can't rush those things. I've tried it, trust me. Recovery is a lot like that. Like, you didn't get here overnight, and you can't simply change overnight. It's a process. Our scripture today comes from Matthew 6:27. Can any one of you, by worrying, add one single hour to your life? I love how Jesus asks questions. He isn't trying to make us feel guilty. He's inviting us to stop and honestly examine what's happening inside of us. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been peeling back the layers of what keeps us stuck. First, we looked at resentment and asked, what am I holding on to? Because resentment is often rooted in wounds from the past that we've never fully surrendered. Then a couple of weeks ago, we talked about fear and we asked, what am I afraid of? Fear is an emotion. We all experience it. The goal wasn't to eliminate the fear, but to recognize it when it shows up. And today we're taking the next step. We're assuming that fear is already sitting in the room. And the question isn't whether we're afraid. The question is, what do I do because I'm afraid? That's where control enters the picture. Control isn't the fear itself. It's often our strategy for coping with fear. It can look like trying to predict every outcome, trying to fix everyone around us, researching every possibility before making a decision, or holding on too tightly because we're convinced everything depends on us. The hard part is, control usually feels like responsibility. It feels productive. It even feels loving at times. But if we're honest, it often leaves us feeling exhausted. And why? Because we're trying to carry things God never asked us to carry. That's why Jesus asks, can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? He's exposing the illusion that we can control tomorrow by worrying about it today. Worry doesn't change tomorrow. It simply convinces us we're doing something while draining the strength that we need for today. Recovery has taught me that inventory isn't just about identifying sin. It's about becoming aware of my coping strategies. When life feels uncertain, do I trust God or do I tighten my grip? Those are very different questions. This week, instead of asking, what am I afraid of? Ask yourself, what am I trying to control? Maybe it's another person's choices or how people see you. Maybe it's an outcome, your future, your kids, your spouse, or maybe it's even your recovery. Then ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't try to control this? Is this actually my responsibility, or have I taken ownership of something that belongs to God? One of the healthiest shifts I've learned in recovery is the difference between being an owner and being a steward. An owner believes everything depends on them. A steward faithfully manages what God has placed in front of them while trusting Him with the outcome. That's the invitation Jesus gives us. Not to stop caring or stop planning, not to become passive, but to stop carrying tomorrow as if it belongs to us. Our job is faithfulness today. Tomorrow has always belonged to God. Next week, we're going to take one more step deeper by asking, who am I relying on? Because underneath so much of our control is the temptation to rely on ourselves more than we rely on God. That's where the conversation about pride begins. All right, let's take a look at those sweet potatoes because we're gonna fill them with all of our goodies back here. Okay. Those sweet potatoes need a little bit longer to cook, so in the meantime, we will chop our veggies. So this is lettuce from my garden, actually. And these are all of our goodies ready to go. This is going to be delicious. I can't wait to dig into lunch today. Okay, so let's talk about our action step for the week. I want to invite you to pay attention to your language. Notice how often you say these things. I have to, I need them to, what if, I just need to make sure. Every time you catch yourself saying one of those things, pause. Ask one simple question. Is this responsibility or is this control? You might be surprised by what God begins to reveal. I want to give you one more thing to think about this week. Control promises peace, but it usually just leaves us feeling exhausted. Jesus offers something better. Not certainty, not complete understanding, but His presence. And sometimes the greatest act of faith isn't figuring everything out. It's opening our hands and trusting the one who's already holding tomorrow. Let's keep our verse close this week as we walk along. Matthew 6:27. Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? I hope you'll ruminate on this verse this week and keep it close to you and see if you're holding on to anything that isn't yours to carry. Next week, we'll talk about the last of the big four, and that's pride. I hope you'll join me back in the kitchen. In the meantime, take care of your body, stay close to God, and keep moving forward in recovery.